Greetings, historians. This is the AIDS podcast with Diego, Selena, and Aiden. Today we're going to be talking about cultures and history, and let's get started. Our unit question was, how does someone's culture influence how they see the world? Okay, so I'll start off by saying that my interview was with my mom. I interviewed her about how my grandma saw kind of influenced my mother in a way. So I asked her a few questions about her relationship with my mother and how she has learned from the experiences of my grandmother and why she keeps sort of the methods and the way of thinking to this day. So after the interview, I learned that my grandmother was a great influence to my mother, and which I asked her if it was a good thing or a bad thing, and she said that it was a very good thing that her mother was kind of like the main influence in her life because, she came from her, right? And kind of she taught my mother how to be a woman. That's one of the main things that she learned from her, and she is very grateful for that. Also, another thing that I saw after interviewing her was that my mother had a very hard time before I was born. She got into a lot of arguments with my grandmother, and so when I was born, she kind of promised my grandmother that they wouldn't fight and they would kind of stay united for me. And that's when my mother saw that everything that she has been teaching her can be used in real life. And so yeah, one of the things that my mother learned from her was that you should believe in something, always believe in something, because that's what makes you who you are in life. It's what gives you the power to keep going, the power to persevere and never stop following your dreams.
Yeah, like religion, like how you believe in a certain religion to set your morals and to set standards and to make sure you don't feel like you go down the wrong path.
Yes. I feel like everyone has their own path, So kind of like my grandmother, she showed my mom that everyone has their own path, everyone is unique, and everyone is different, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually something that is good for culture, something that makes us grow as people.
Yeah, for me, I was being raised Catholic, and so I grew up learning or my parents always taking me to church on Sundays and praying before meals, and thanks to those things, I've learned to be more appreciative about my religion and my family and my food and what I have.
So my theme was about experience and how experiencing new cultures that are different or similar from your original one broadens your mind and makes you a more unique person due to your background. In my interview, I interview Hanso Lee, who is Korean, but she's lived in Peru her life. So she has two different cultures that lead into her background. And she has multiple values that are Korean, but also...
What kind of values?
So she says Korean, religious... I don't know the specific religion that she has, but she says religious Korean sayings at the dinner table each night with her family and every time before she eats. But she also mentioned how her two cultures mixing together make her a much better person a more experienced person
And a more unique person, right?
Yeah, more unique person because she has a broadened mind. She knows more about the world than other people who have only lived in Korea all their life or Peru all their life.
I think that's very. Hansel's a very, very, very lucky person. I feel like for experiencing more than one culture.
Yes.
Something not a lot of people have. I feel like.
Yeah. Me, I have experienced 3 cultures: the United States culture, the Dominican Republic culture, and the Peruvian culture. But I would say that I really only have the American culture because I haven't lived in the Caribbean or South America for long enough in my life for it to fully affect me.
Living in the Dominican Republic and in the Americas, did you find like anything common or something different in the culture?
So America, one of the religions, I lived in Tennessee and Florida, so the main religions there are Christianity and Catholicism, and same in Peru and the Dominican Republic. They are both have a big influence from the Christian religion. So in my interview, when I interviewed Hansel, she said a lot of stuff of how experiencing the 2 different cultures and making a lot of friends who are from other cultures that can be different, completely different, because they're from different parts of the world, like me and hers. She said it really helps her like understand the world better, and she says something along the lines of that it's like a way better opportunity than it would be to be just stuck with her culture and being in a school with only Korean or Peruvian students. So this opportunity that we all have of getting to meet new people who have completely different experiences with completely different cultures really helps us experience the new cultures and helps broaden our minds and our knowledge of the world. Also, it's another thing to talk about with experience would be adopting the values of the new countries that you will live in and the new cultures that you experience. So I would say that living in the Dominican Republic, some values that I adopted are that I need to be more self-aware, and I need to be more thankful for the things that I have, because that's what the Dominican Republic, that's like a big thing in the Dominican Republic. And in Peru, for as long as I've lived here, I would say I shouldn't take my opportunities for granted, as living in Peru is a very unique experience that I get to have, and not many other people like me will get to have. So this helps me see the world as like a much better place if you take the opportunities that you can get, and it's a very diverse world too. So if you get to experience more cultures and countries, and you're gonna live in more countries, it'll have a much better effect on you, because you will get to know the world better and understand the world.
That is very true, Aiden. I feel the same exact way as you. After living in Mexico, Canada, Chile, and now in Peru, I feel like I've learned and grown so much as a person.
And another thing in my interview, Hansel expressed her feelings about how she feels very lucky to live in Peru, but also getting to experience her descendants' culture, and she gets to learn more than a lot of other people like her who have lived in Peru get to, due to her cultural descent.
Yeah, adding on to that, I would say my parents were agreeing to move over here.
one of especially the reasons was for me to get exposed to different cultures and for my mind to be exposed to to be more open-minded, especially because I've never had this type of experience, and I always my whole life I was always lived in America, and I've never experienced anything like this. Yeah, I had a similar theme to Aiden. In my interview, I was interviewing my mom, and she's Latina and raised by Mexican parents who were strict and never really ventured out or traveled during her childhood. So my mom was never really exposed to different cultures. It was like she was in a little bubble like her whole life in South Texas until she finally moved to a university, and she became friends with a lot of people all over the world. And she found out that these cultures had some things in common. For an example, my mom said some Arabic words sounded like Spanish, and they had similar traditions. And after learning all these things, my mom had a different perspective on how she saw other cultures, or she would say, I would never have this open-mindedness if she hadn't moved. Since she said moving really enriched her life since it got her to learn new things and experience more.
Yeah, that basically just shows how once she finally got to experience and make friends from all the cultures, she realized how limited she was as a younger person, and how just having experience with more cultures can honestly just broaden your mind and make you more unique, and it can make you a better person.
I totally agree with that, Ian. Yeah. So, in conclusion, cultures influence different people
learning new things
and experiencing more cultures helps influence people in seeing the world a new and different way.
So that was it, historians. Thank you for tuning in, and see you guys in the next podcast.